Hello and welcome to lesson 24. In this lesson and in the following two lessons, we are going to be looking at how you can remove unnecessary words from your writing. These unnecessary words are words that people use to fill up their writing. These are words that people use for various different reasons, and I'll go into a little bit more detail in a second, but these words add nothing to the message that you're trying to communicate. And as you can see behind me, these three phrases are three phrases that we are going to try to eliminate from your writing forever, starting from today, on the basis of in the event that, and in order to, or in order for. So let's get started. By way of introduction to this topic, and in order to fully explain everything about this lesson, you see what I did there? I gave you a whole load of unnecessary language, which, when you think about it, is nothing to do with the point of this lesson, other than to show you guys how easy it is to use unnecessary language. Now, one of the reasons why it's easy to use unnecessary language is because it's formed part of everyone's bad writing habits. We've seen other people use this language, particularly people who are more senior or who are more learned within the areas of law or business. And so, particularly if you're younger at the beginning of your careers, you start thinking, okay, if they are using it, then I have to use it as well, because it shows how they are experienced and senior. Therefore, if I use that language, I also will be experienced and senior. The opposite is true. This is a bad writing habit, and studies have shown that people don't like this unnecessary language because it takes them a long time to get to the point that you're really trying to communicate. If you have a look at my videos that I put out on my social media channels on Tuesday and Friday, particularly at the beginning of November, then you'll see I've done a couple of videos about this and how this is a trap that particularly people at the beginning of their careers fall into. And that is to say, they think that more words equals more professionalism. And of course, at the beginning of your career, you want to show off. You want to show that you've got the skills, the experience, the knowledge, and so on. So you think, okay, I've got to use big sentences. I've got to use these words. I've got to use this jargon, this technical language. I've got to fill up my sentences. And therefore, it makes me look better. No, studies have shown quite the opposite is true. More words equals clunky, heavy text, which is difficult to read. And then you'll fall into that trap, as I'm sure you've experienced as you've been reading textbooks, that when you read heavy, clunky text, you don't want to read it. It's not attractive, it's not exciting, it doesn't make you want to learn. Whereas if you use less words, it's professional, it's better, it's clearer communication. It cuts through all of the unnecessary language and it gets to the point. And I'm sure that you have experienced or you have seen text which has been, in the old days, it would have plenty of red ink through it, as it's been annotated by senior people in a firm. Nowadays, you might see that with track changes, for example, in Word. If you work with me, if I proofread texts, then I take out huge, not always huge, but certainly a significant number of words from every single text that I look at, because I don't think it's necessary to communicating the main point. And of course, that's when I discuss with the lawyers and the other professionals that I work with, what is your language and how can we communicate that language as succinctly and as clearly and as quickly as possible. In short, if you're using less words, you're thinking about your reader. And if you're thinking about your reader, it means you're thinking about your message, which means that your message is going to be that much more successful. So let's have a look at some examples. On the basis of can simply be changed to based on. So we've got 4 words changed into 2 words. It's not always the case that we're going to take 5 words and change it into 1. Sometimes we're going to take 4 words and change it into 2. Sometimes we're going to take 4 words and change them into 3 words. what I want you to think of is the total effect on your document. Now, I've proofread due diligence before in the past, in which I changed on the basis of about 50 times in one document. And I changed it from on the basis of to based on, which means exactly the same thing. And I cut out a big pile of unnecessary words. When you've got a document that big, it makes an effect. In the event that is a classic waste of words, when we can simply say if. If is professional, it's businesslike, it's legal, it's easy to understand, it's not informal, it's not baby-like. Why don't we just say if instead? And the third one, in order to or in order for, can simply be to or for. In 99.9% of cases, you can simply, whenever you write in order to or in order for, you can just simply delete in order. I think from memory there has been about one case in the last 4 years where I've seen this, and I thought I could probably get rid of in order, but I just leave it in just this once. Not everyone is perfect, I guess. But these are simple, easy, professional alternatives that are really easy to identify and really easy to change. So the teaching tips: break your bad habits, use fewer words instead of more. Now, of course, this takes practice, but it also takes knowledge as well. Now you know what the problem is, now you know how you can identify 3 examples, you can begin to get to work. Get into the habit of reviewing your writing and identify which phrases you overuse. Now, in previous videos, I've said, make a list of things that you're doing wrong, your bad writing habits, put them on the side of your monitor or somewhere where you can see them around your computer. And after you do some writing, quickly look at that list of bad habits, then have a look at your writing, go through it and make the changes, and then you are in the process of improving your text. Now, I know some of you might think that this is a quick process. I mean, after all, it should be in order to should simply be to. Even after 6 or 7 or even 8 years of doing this, when I'm writing, I still fall into the trap of writing in order to. But the good thing is, as soon as I do, I now know to go back and delete those words. So it's not just a bad habit, it is a habit, and habits are very, very difficult to break. Makes your writing easier to read. Therefore, it makes your writing more effective. I can stress this point over and over and over again. It is the truth. The more you cut the clutter out of your writing, the more effective your writing will be. A simple, simple truth. As always, and I've said this repeatedly in all of the videos that I've done, think of the reader. Don't think about your ego. Writing is not an excuse for you to show off your Shakespearean skills or your knowledge of vocabulary. Think of the reader. If the reader can't understand what you're writing, then it's pointless you even writing to the reader. And a lot of these unnecessary words that we'll be looking at are idiomatic words, which means, or idiomatic phrases, which means that you have to have a higher level of English in order to understand them in the first place. Whereas the alternatives, the professional shorter alternatives, are understood by a lot more people. Clarity of message equals clarity of thinking, which equals a good writer. This is also a point I wish to underline again. Organized writing makes people think that you are an organized thinker, which means that people think positively, not just of your writing, but of you as well. And that is also a thing that studies have shown. When someone gets a complicated text, particularly legal professionals and business professionals, and they have to work through that legal text or business text, they don't understand what's going on, they think the writer also does not know what's going on. So there are added advantages to being able to communicate clearly and succinctly. Okay, now it's time for the questions. What I'd like you to do is read the sentences below and change the underlined prepositional phrase to a simpler, shorter form. By way of example, we will have to change venue in the event that the hotel is too small for our conference. We will have to change venue if the hotel is too small for our conference. Simple as that. Now, You might have to read the sentence carefully. There might be the case that you have to make 1 or 2 small changes to the sentences. It's not always a simple take it out, put it in. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it isn't, and you've just got to be a little bit careful. So although this task is an easy task about building new habits, it is something that you've got to keep a careful eye on. And of course, if you want to see the questions for this, you'll be able to see them on my Patreon channel, on the courses which are available on my Patreon page.